Oakwood University Church, Oakwood students, do me a favor. Residents of Huntsville, give our special guest, Brother Michael Vick, Brother Michael Dwayne Vick, a warm welcome as he comes and he shares his testimony. Our resident interviewer, Dean Linda Andersen, will lead and guide our conversation at this time.
And we've already become friends upstairs, so I feel very comfortable saying that. As we talk this morning, you will probably become very, very much aware of what I found in speaking with Mr. Michael Vick, that this is a spiritual man. And we're going to find out just how your spiritual journey took you to the points and the pivotal places in your life. First, I want to ask you, first of all, thank you for being here.
Oh, thank you. It's a pleasure.
We're grateful. We're grateful.
Thank you for the warm reception.
Yeah, we're grateful. Yes, we're so thankful. And I told him I had to ask this, what happened to you last time, man? We were filled up in here. We were looking for you. What happened? What happened?
First off, I'll be the first to apologize. I'm going to give the mic to my assistant.
Yes,
I'm going to let him
right.
explain what happened, and then we'll be clear.
But I told you that I'm sure that you were supposed to be here today because there's someone here who needs to hear what you have to say. How did you get your start? Tell me about your upbringing. Tell me about when you found out that you had this gift, athletic gift.
My upbringing was like, probably like 70% of most, African-American young kids. I grew up in poverty, very poverty-stricken area, surrounded by a lot of friends, a lot of things going on in the neighborhood that I grew up in, a lot of influences. Just the ordinary lifestyle, of a young black kid, but, with aspirations.
When did you know that you had a gift for football? When did you start playing?
I knew I had a gift, when I was about 7 years old. Like every day my motivation was to go outside and, do something better to try to better myself at the game that I love at such a young age. And I didn't understand my passion, back then when I was that young. I just wanted to have fun doing it, but everybody around me always, told me that I looked different from everybody else, and I think it was because, at a young age, I always practiced.
Okay. Tell me, share with me what we were talking about when we talked about your start in football and what got you there and how you started spiritually.
I know it was a lot of challenges growing up in the neighborhood that I was in, and, I always felt like, I needed an edge. I needed to have a different visualization of what everybody else in the neighborhood did. I wanted to be different. Even though we grew up together, even though we all ran together, had fun together, I wanted to be different. So, my aspirations was to make it to the NFL. And I told my grandmother that at a young age, and I told her I would do anything to get there. And she told me, if you're going to be successful in life, you have to find God at some point. Mm-hmm. And that always stuck with me. So I'm like, at a young age, I'm like, what can I do to incorporate God into my life? When I don't really know anything about, God or, the Bible or how to interpret it. And I just came to the conclusion, I just put the Bible under my pillow and sleep with it under my pillow until something good happened.
And so something good did happen when you were sleeping with the Bible under your pillow.
Yeah, over time it did, yeah.
So tell us about how you got into the NFL.
Well, it's a lot of hard work, mm-hmm. A lot of dedication, a lot of push, from my peers, a lot of push from my mom and my dad.
You had two courses. You had a Plan A and a Plan B. What was Plan B?
Plan B, I wanted to major in criminology. Sociology was what they had at the University of Virginia Tech. Mm-hmm. So that was my backup plan. But my backup plan was really my backup plan. My plan was Plan A, all the way through, and that was to make it, to make it to the NFL. And I was so determined to do whatever it took to make that happen that I couldn't see my Plan B. So my determination was so strong that I wouldn't allow anything to come into my life to negate that until I got a little older.
Okay, so let's talk about what happened when the course started to change. How is it that someone who is a star athlete, celebrity, golden boy of football becomes tarnished and winds up heading in a direction that took you to prison?
Well, I think I lost focus, and it's so easy to do. You know, you feel like you know, once you receive all these blessings, you feel like you've arrived. And I can honestly say I felt as if there was nothing else that needed to be done, but I lost sight of everything that got me to that point. You know, my beliefs, you know, no more sleeping with the Bible under the pillow, no more saying my prayers at night. My grandmother instilled that in my brothers and sisters and my entire family. You know, ask God for something that you really want, and you never know when you may get it. And I did that all the way up until I was drafted. Once I got drafted, you know, I started living a different life. You know, it wasn't rigorous. It wasn't, you know, crazy. You know, I did everything to try to make sure I, you know, did what I was supposed to do. And at the same time, I was straddling the fence. You know, I always told myself I didn't want to be a product of my environment. I always wanted my environment to be a product of me. But at the same time, I brought some of those same values with me. You know, when I turned 23, 24, and I had some money, and I was able to, you know, just do anything that I wanted to do, and, you know, lost focus and ended up in prison. And, you know, it was a very humbling experience.
Do you feel that you were treated fairly? Because a lot of people, present company included, kind of looked at what was happening in the situation and wondered, were you being treated the same way maybe somebody else was? There are a lot of athletes today who are abusive to women and their spouses, and they have not done jail time. Do you feel that you were treated fairly?
Well, I look at it in two different forms. You know, first and foremost, you know, we all got to make decisions, and I think that's what, you know, we're up here talking about, you know, decision making. And, you know, I had every right to do the right thing and not do the wrong thing. And it's so easy to do the wrong thing. Like, I mean, it's the easiest thing to do. You know, it's hard when you got to make a decision based on, you know, a positive outcome. And, you know, I had influences around me, but, you know, I think as a grown man at 24 years old and, you know, everything that I received in my life, you know, I was supposed to take a step back and really look at my life as a whole and the people that I affected and the people that, you know, really cared about me. You know, I allowed the Atlanta Falcons organization, you know, my mom and dad, my college coaches, you know, anybody who, you know, put time and effort into me, and you know, last of all, you know, God, the reason I really was in the position, the reason I'm here today, the reason we all are here. So I lost focus and, you know, ended up, you know, in a place where I was humble, but at the same time became a better person.
So you lost your freedom, and that was one of the biggest things for you. Tell us how you survived that situation, losing your freedom, being incarcerated. How did you make it through that?
When I first got into prison, when they first closed the door, it was like a dream. And, you know, at that point, I felt like everything in life, you know, has to have an expiration date that's not positive. You know, the things that I was doing, I was not going to stop. So that was my expiration date when that door closed. I wanted to, you know, I wanted to get out so bad. It was out of my control, you know, and the only thing I could do was just kind of, you know, look up and think about what I had done and, you know, kind of ask God to forgive me for what I had done and ask God to help me. And I wanted it all right then. Every time the God came to the door and put the key in the door, I was hoping that there was somebody that was coming in to free me. And that was just the first day, you know, and that was the first day. I ended up doing 465 more after that.
My goodness.
But, you know, I wanted it all at one time. I wanted God to intervene and help me right then and there.
Did he? Did he intervene?
No, absolutely not. It didn't happen until I walked out of those doors and everything was back in my control. And, you know, there was times when, you know, I felt as if, you know, I always looked at myself as, you know, God's child. So, you know, I'm praying at night, like, like saying the hardest prayers that I can pray. You know, I ain't even a praying guy, you know, but I know how to pray a little bit, and I know how to ask for what I want. But I know it's a mutual respect and a relationship that you have to have with God. So, you know, I didn't want to disrespect that relationship and put a strain on it. So, you know, I just told myself I got to be patient. You know, those doors are not going to open when I want them to. And, you know, I have to, you know, put my focus on things that's going to be positive reinforcement when I get out. And, you know, it wasn't until then when they opened the doors and they let me out, you know, it was a new era for me, you know, in my whole walk.
I have a question for a lot of the students here, and maybe even people who are beyond college age. Was there at any point an obvious crossroads where you made a choice to go in one direction as opposed to the other? And in making that choice, did you have a chance to, in your mind, make a different choice and make the wrong one?
Yeah, well, like I said, I had plenty of opportunities, you know, based on my situation. You know, what I was doing at the time, it was what I dreamed about my entire life. It's what I asked God for when I was younger. My grandmother told me to ask God for. I did it. And I did everything that I was supposed to do, from sleeping with the Bible under my pillow to, you know, having a stronger belief than anybody that was around me that I could do this. And it was so far-fetched, you know, because all you hear about is the reasons that you can't make it. You know, you're small, you know, the NFL doesn't, you know, they have a limited number of black quarterbacks, you know, which is, you know, something that, you know, should be overlooked, and something that I wanted to change.
And you did.
And I did, and I was just kind of able to just shift my focus to, you know, doing all the right things, and I did it. But just in the position that I was in, why would you risk that? Why would you sacrifice that for things that, you know, really didn't make no sense or was morally wrong? And, you know, so I look at it in that sense. You know, I felt like I should have been more of a mature person and should have been able to not be a product of my environment, which I didn't want to be.
Who were your friends in this process? Did your friends from the NFL stick with you? Did you lose any friends?
You know, I gained more friends. I gained more respect. You know, there was a lot of guys that was older than me, a lot of my former teammates who were leaders who they tried to encourage me to, you know, Mike, be on time, you know, come in a little earlier. You know, it's better to be, you know, 5 minutes earlier than, you know, 5 minutes late. Nah, man, you know, it's, you know, I'm here, you know, I'm on time. But I didn't see the big picture. And, you know, sometimes you miss the big picture, and you know, you can't get it all at one time. You know, everybody has to crawl before they walk. You can't get impatient. You got to let things happen and let it flow smooth. So
how have you changed? What's ahead for Michael Vick now? How have you changed?
Well, I think just overall, I try to think before I speak. I try to think before I react. I try to weigh all the options, pros and cons, before any decision is made on anything in my life. You know, I think I'm a better teacher, you know, starting with my kids, and, you know, a better leader, you know, in the locker room. And just, you know, with my overall family, I feel like I'm responsible for them. I feel like I'm responsible for my kids growing up to reach the level that all the kids up on the top tier are at right now, you know, graduating. That's my responsibility. And every parent that's in here who has a kid up in the top tier, you should be proud of yourself and give yourself a pat on the back, because it's a lot of hard work and it's not easy.
Okay, and finally, you're a free agent now. You're a free agent. And so what is your plan? What do you want to do?
Well, I had a great career. It's been 15 long years, you know, football for me.
You got more game in you?
I got more game in me, but I can't give it all to him. You know, I feel like this year, you know, I want to have fun with it. I want to enjoy it. You know,
Children.
I still have my kids that, like I said, I'm responsible for, and every decision that they make, I want it to be a reflection of themselves and a reflection of me. So that's a great responsibility within itself. And I feel like it's more out there for me. I feel like football was just only a facet of my life, and I was able to accomplish that goal And I think it's time to kind of put that to rest and try to figure out what my next calling is. And I'm just going to let it flow. I'm going to let it come. I'm not going to rush it. I'm not going to ask God to give it all to me at one time. I'm going to just let it happen.
Well, we're proud of you. We're proud of you. We're fans. And we appreciate you. And we want to encourage you and let you know that everything that you've been through has built you. And you're better, and we're looking for great things still to come from you, Michael Vick.
Thank you.
All right. After I preached today, ironically, we're on the same flight. We're on our way to Florida this afternoon, but after the sermon over in Mosley, Brother Vick has agreed to take pictures with our young people so that they can, and Mike, you know, I feel that this is mutual, that you can pour into our young people, but we want to pour into you. And one of the reasons why we wanted you to be here, and we didn't want to just do this at an assembly, we wanted to do it in church. Right. Because we wanted you to experience the Aeolians. And he was sitting there and said, they can sing. And,
I need some of those songs on my iTunes. Awesome.
And we wanted you to see as Seventh-day Adventists that we are not an isolated or insulated ministry, but we seek to reach all people. And so
awesome.
A part of that was to have you come here today. But before you take your seat, one line, two lines, what can you tell our young people? What kind of admonition or counsel can you give them in terms of decisions?
I would say just have patience. One thing I had to learn in my life is have patience. And I just said it a second ago. You can't get it all in one day. And it's going to be frustrations. You know, it's going to be times where you want something so bad you feel like you deserve it, and maybe you don't at the time, and you feel like you've done all the right things. But if I can wait 458 days to get back to something that meant so much to me, then I think anybody can wait any period of time, you know, for God to deliver the blessing that he has for you. So I would say, don't try to do it all in one day, and patience is a virtue.
Thank you, sir. He'll take pictures after church. Let's put our hands together for Mike Vick. Thank you, my brother. Let's thank our resident interviewer, Dean Linda Andersen.
My pleasure. My pleasure.